Hey, how you doing, everybody? This is Alfred from Practical Code Academy. And in today's project, we're going to create our custom context menu, which is the right-click menu that you have in the browser. Each browser have its own default right-click menu. And in order to create our custom right-click menu, we have to stop the browser from generating the default menu, and then we can create our customized menu here. And in this project is going to be very, very dynamic and interactive. Notice here when I press right click, this menu started from the right of my cursor here. So my cursor, and you will see that the menu started from, it will continue on the right of it. And it's also gonna go under the cursor like this. So it will go down and to the right of it. That's fine, as long as I'm away from the edges here, from this right edge. Because if I try to right click here, my application it's too smart to calculate the width of this context menu and put it now to the left of the cursor, not to the right of it. But if you here, it will put it to the right of the cursor. If you try to right click here, it will put it to the left of the cursor. Similar to that, if I'm here, it will put the context menu under the cursor. However, if you're down there and you try to do right click, and notice that now the menu is going to go up, not down. Okay, I hope you're going to like this small project. It's actually not that big. And let's start doing it together. So I'm going to minimize this and keep it for a reference. I have a folder here, and this folder, technically, I just have 3 files: the index.html and basic CSS and main.js. And I have the background image as well. Here it is. You'll see here, this is very, very basic HTML. And that's the only HTML we need here. I have a title, and I put custom context menu. I linked my CSS file, which is currently empty. And also I linked my JavaScript using the script tag, which is also empty here. The only element that I put in this HTML is just a div with an ID of context, nothing more. Okay. Now let's start with the styling. I want to use Roboto font for this project. So I will go to Google Fonts and select Roboto font. And I already been selected that font previously. It's stored here in my history. But if you can't search for it, if you new to Google Fonts and you select the font and you start selecting which font you want, and it's going to be added to this menu. In my case here, I selected all of them, but you can select only. You can remove also whatever font you're not going to need. You can use the link tag to generate the link tag, or the import here. I'm going to use the import since I'm going to put it in the styling sheet, and I can copy this whole import statement. Once I copy it, I'm going to put it right here, and that will fetch the font from the Google fonts. And as you can see here, the family is Roboto, and it's getting all the variants of the font. Okay, now how to use this font? I'll select my body tag, and here they give you the CSS rule that you can use, or the CSS property, which is family font, Roboto, sans serif. I can copy this one as well and put the CSS here, and that's it. Your font for this page will be Roboto. I also want to set a background image, which is the background image that I have in this images folder, which is this image. This is I believe it's the default macOS background. So I will do background image URL, images, and select my image. And that's it for the body. Nothing more. I can also set the height to 100% and the width to 100%. And since we're here, let's reset everything in the browser, like resetting the margin, the default margin that the browser gave to the page, and reset the default padding, and do border or box. Sizing, border, box. Okay, that's it now for the CSS. Let's take a look at our page. Let's open it now. This is not our page. This is the reference page. I'm going to go to the index.html, open it with the live server. And this is our page. And as you can see, this is the default right-click menu or the context menu. Okay, so far so good. Now, I want to prevent this menu, prevent the browser to display this menu here, the right-click menu. I can do that with the JavaScript. And the event that I want to listen to in my document will be the context menu. So I can select my document, and I want to add an event listener to it. And the event that I'm looking for is the context menu. You can scroll down here, and you will see this is the event. When the user right-click in the page, any code that you're going to put in this function, and I'm going to use an arrow function here, and this arrow function will receive the event object. It's very important because we're going to use this event object in the code. So E here, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it event, you can call it E, whatever you want. So let's console log it to see what we're dealing with. Now, every time I'm going to right-click, this function should fire, should be executed. So I'm going to inspect the page to open, right-click, and it's not going to work. It's actually working here. You see here, this is the event. It's pointer event. Every time I right-click, you will have another pointer event here. And you will see all the properties and methods that you can use with it. One important method that we actually want to use is e.preventDefault. And that will prevent this default menu to show on the web page. So technically here, prevent the context, the default context menu. And the reason we want to stop the default one, because we want to create our customized one. Let's see if that's working now. And I'm going to close here. I will try to right-click. And as you can see, there is no menu showing, or there is no right-click menu showing in my page. And that's a good example if you're doing like a quiz application or an exam application. You don't want the user to copy and paste on your page. Or if you're doing like a blog and you don't want the user to copy because they can highlight everything and right-click and copy it. Now they can't because you're preventing the use of the context menu. Okay, now I stop the context menu. Now I want to add my custom context menu. I can do that. And keep in mind, we have this context div, or the div with the ID context. So I want to select that one, or this div, constant context equal document dot query selector. I will select it from my DOM context. Once I select it, now I want to add some markup to it, or inner HTML. So I'm going to start adding to its inner HTML property. So context dot inner HTML equal, and technically it will be an order list with all my menu items. Okay, but I don't want to hard code them here. I want it to be dynamically. So I can create a menu here, a menu constant, which will be an array. And in this array, I can add any items that I want to show inside my menu. Okay, so every time you want to add or customize this menu, just add a new string here because it's going to be an array of strings. And we can do something like open, move, or delete, info, rename, duplicate, anything. You can add anything. Copy any strings, paste. Okay. And finally, we want to add properties. Okay. I don't want to only add strings here, and I'm going to show you why. So this is our goal. That's what we're trying to achieve. You will see here that there is a divider between the open and move, and there is a divider between duplicate and share. This divider is nothing more than just a horizontal line. So I want to indicate in my array to add some horizontal line, and I can put anything like null here. So let's say after the open, I'm going to add a null. And here, I'm going to add a null and null. And once we're adding nulls here, we're going to loop through this menu anyway. And if we find a string, we're going to add it as a list item. If we find a null, we're going to add a horizontal ruler in that case. So I will start. I put an initial string here, which is the starting of the UL. I will put a closing for the UL or the unordered list. And right here in between them, I want to loop through my menu. Dot. So I can loop using for each. And for every single item, for each take an arrow function. And for every single item, if it's have a value, if it's not null, then what I want to do is context dot inner HTML. I want to add to the inner HTML a new list item, which is list item, close the tag. And the text inside it, simply the text of that item, like open, delete, because you're looping through these strings here. So the item will hold each string every time you loop. And if it have a value and it's not null, that's what I want to show between my li. So I'm going to use the template string here, and I'm going to put item. Else, if it's null, then I want to add to my context, it's inner HTML, I want to add a horizontal ruler. Okay, now, and I close my UL at the end here. Perfect. Now let's take a look at our page and see how it looks like. If I right click, nothing actually showing, and there is no UL showing. Context, query selector, context. Okay, yes, try here because I forget to add the plus here. So it will override everything with the closing tag. Let's now give it a try. Here we go. As you can see, this is our UL created when I right click. If I keep right clicking, it will generate them. Let's do it again here. I'm gonna press right click. Here we go. It will be always in that location, and it's a block level element. Now let's style this context or custom menu using our style sheet. So I'm going to put them side by side so we can do the styling. Okay. In the styling here, I want to target my context ID. And what I want to do, I want to give it a specific width of, let's say, 200 pixel. And I want to do background color or background RGBA. I'm going to give it a white background, 255, 255, 255. And I want to do the opacity or the alpha here, 0.7. And you should have like a transparent background, or we can actually make it less transparent, like 5. Okay, perfect. I will give it a little bit padding of, let's say, 0.7 rem. Okay, we have padding. Perfect. I will give it a border radius of 5 pixels. So I will have corner border over here, rounded borders. Okay, now I want to target each listed item inside my context menu. So I will target the LI. I will select list style none to remove all the bullet points. Good. I want to give it a padding of 0.5 rem, because as you can see now, the text is right next to each other. Here we go. Or actually, that's too much. Let's do it 25 rem. Okay, that made me look better. Now, when I hover over them, as you can see, I want to change my cursor. So I will do cursor pointer. So now it will be pointer when you hover over this listed items. Now I want to also add a hover over effect, so I can target this context LI when I hover over them. I want to set the background color to dark gray, so 333. I want the color of the text to be white. And finally, I'm going to do a border radius of 5 pixels. Now we have this hover effect when you hover over one of the items in our menu. And here we go. We have this menu that initially have nothing, but the JavaScript, it have no content. When you right-click in the page, it will fill this content here. So since it will show like this initially in my page, I want to hide it. So my context here initially in my page, I want to display it none. And using JavaScript, then I will bring it back to the screen, because right now it's not going to show at all. But now I will start working the JavaScript to actually, when the user right-click, I will target this context now, and I will do display to be block. It's actually styled, this context.style, and I want to target the display property and set it to block and instead of hidden, or instead of none. So when I right-click, now it's going to show up because now the display is block. Okay, but this is not the only functionality that I want to do. I want to add more functionalities. And I want to position this context menu now as position absolute to the page. So I can change the styles here, context.style.position to be equal absolute, because I want to change its top and its left. And initially, I will give it top of 0. So context.style.top equal 0. Now, when you right-click, it will be always here in the top. Now, what I want to do is set its top, and I want to get the cursor when the user right-click. Where exactly did he right-click? I want to get the y-axis and the x-axis. Okay, so the y-axis in pixels and x-axis in pixels. And I can show you that alert, because now when the user right-click, we can add here y-axis or pixels from the top. Because your page starts from here, 0, 0. And as long as you go down in pixels with the mouse, it will increase all the way down here to how big is your screen. Pixels from the top. And here I can get that from my event object here. So I can select my event object, and it's have a property called client y. Client y is going to tell you what is the y-axis, or how many pixels from the top the user right-click this mouse. And if I save that now, and let's say here all the way in the beginning, try to be close, and right-click, and you see here 2 pixels from the top of the page. And if I go down here, 917 pixels from the top of the page. Perfect. So I'm going to use this client y as the top position for my context. So now I can comment this, and now my top position here is going to be simply e.client y, and don't forget to add px, short for pixels. And now if I do it here, you see now it started right here. If I do it here, it will do at this y-axis. Now you can control the y-axis of this context menu. Okay, now how about I want to control the x-axis? Same, it's e.client x. So I want to target the context. Context dot style dot left equal e dot client x, and don't forget the pixels. Here's the pixels. And now let's try it. And now here I can have my own context menu. It's a custom context menu. But now we're going to have this problem that if I try to do right click here, now the menu will go down and the page actually will crash. Also, if I try at this edge, the right edge, if I right click, now the page, you will see the scroll bar, and now your image will be repeated here. That's not the behavior that I want. What I want, if the height of this menu plus the client y, or where the user click the arrow, if you add them together to get this point, if it's less than the screen height, then it's fine. However, if it's more than the screen height, so if I try to right click here, first I will get the y-axis here, or where the user right click in this arrow. In addition to that, the height of the menu, and if both of them bigger than this point, which is the maximum height of my screen, then my top position here, I need to recalculate it. Let's do that in action here. So it's not going to be fixed to top left like this. I will have some if statements. So first, I want to check if my e dot client y. And in order to get the height of this context, I will use a property called client height. So the user cursor is at this pixels from the top. And in addition to this, the height of the context, client height, the addition of both pixels, if they are more than the screen height, then I want this menu to go upward from the cursor. So if both of them is bigger than, and you can access the screen height using the screen dot height. So if this is the case, I want to set my top and I need to calculate it. Else, I'm just going to use this one. That's mean I have room to show the context menu. But in this condition here, I don't have room because it's more or equal the screen height. So technically, what I need to calculate is where the user right-click. Let's say this is my arrow here. I right-click here. I get the y-axis here. And I want this y-axis subtract from it the height of my menu. So this y-axis, you subtract from it the height of the menu, subtraction. It will give you where exactly to start here, the top. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to copy this. So the top in that case is going to be the client y minus the context client height. And let's give it a try. Now if I try to do it here, oops. And it's not working. Let's see why. Yes, because I didn't put pixels here. Okay. And I put pixels here, so that should work. Okay, it's working here, no problem. But now if I go down there, now you see it goes up here, it go down from the cursor. But if I right click here, it's going to go up from the cursor. So it's going to adjust. Look like it's failing here. And that can be easy fixed if you give an initial value for the top. So right here, I'm just going to give an initial value, context dot style dot top equal 0. And that should fix this issue here. So just an initial value that then we can update this top based on the right click of the user. So let's see if that's going to work. Yep, it's working. Okay, down here, it's going to go up. Here, it's going to go down. Perfect. Let's do the same thing. But instead with the screen height, we want to do it with the screen width. So I want to get the width of my context here and where the user right click. And if both, when I add this point and the width, which are going to give me here, if both pixels I add it together, it's more than the screen width, then I'm going to subtract the width from the cursor position to put it on the right side. Hope that makes sense. So I will have another if condition here, e dot, it's going to be client x in that case. And I want to calculate the context dot client width. If that's bigger than or equal the screen width, in that case, I need to set my context dot style dot left equal e dot client x, and I want to subtract from it the context client width. And don't forget to add the pixels. Otherwise, I will have the regular, which is the left of it to be e.clientX. So it's going to be on the left of the cursor. And that's it. That should get it to work. Now, right here, it's working. When I go to the edge here, now you notice that the menu will be on the left side of the cursor. And it's not working. Let's make sure I didn't save. See here. So I will save. Here we go. See now the menu on the left side, not on the right side. If I click here, it's on the right side. If I click here, it's on the left side, because it's smart enough to adjust the location of the menu from the cursor. Now, I want the user, when he press or click anything, not right-click, this menu to disappear. And we can do that simply by adding, this is for the right-click event, we're listening to it. And now we're just going to add another event, document dot add event listener. And we want to listen when the user click. And in that case, we're going to get the event object. We pass the arrow function. And what we need to do in that case, just we're going to target this context div again. And we're going to set the display in that case to none, which we're going to hide it. Okay. So document dot query selector, we're going to select the context div. And after we select it, we're going to go to dot style dot display equal none. Let's give it a try. Right click, left click, disappeared. Right click, left click, right click, left click. And here we go. And you click anywhere on the screen, and it will work perfectly. And that's it for today's project. I hope you find it helpful. And if you're not subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe, because I'm planning to actually do a full Mac OS operating system with a full screen functionality clone on the browser. So stay tuned for that.